Welcome back, Lisa Renna. I've missed you so much since your family packed their bags, loaded them in your mouth, and skipped town.
And does it match the blood you found inside Mr. Simpson's Bronco?
Yes, it's all from the same individual.
Then you mean all this time we could have been friends?
Judges your score.
Tell us what you don't like about yourself.
I'd like to go to Dreamland.
I'll take you there.
Who are you?
I'm Constance Langdon, and this is my fucking house.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Ryan Murphy Project, a podcast where we take a look at the life and career of one of TV's most prolific showrunners. I'm Eric.
And I am Andrew.
Welcome back to our podcast. It's episode 2, Andrew. We made it.
We did it. Nice to see you.
The hard part's over. We came back. And now we're here to review Ryan's second show. Mm-hmm. We're just going to jump right into it this week. Right?
Yeah, because it was really interesting with Nip Tuck. I kept on thinking it was a second show after Popular. Definitely a different choice. And then to see kind of like what he did for all his other shows, this kind of seems to me like an anomaly or just like something kind of different for him.
You found a Vulture article that said this is the most Ryan Murphy show that he's ever done.
Yeah.
And this was published this year. So it's interesting because I think it's I don't know if it's the most Ryan Murphy show. It's definitely a Ryan Murphy show, but there's something that feels different about it.
Yeah, and I couldn't put my finger on it right away. Maybe because like the two leads are just two plastic surgeon white guys.
Yeah.
I don't think that he would do necessarily that right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for me, we'll get into it, but they're two very unlikable guys.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, I think throughout, I don't find anything endearing about either of them. I think they're both a waste of space. It's crazy that they're the protagonists of the story. But we will get into, what is it, Dr. Christian Troy and Dr. Sean
McNamara.
Yeah. Okay. Those are our two guys. And in the Vulture article you found, it also said that this is basically a love story between two straight men. Yeah,
and what you could definitely see in this episode, in the pilot episode. I found that article because I was just looking up how Ryan Murphy even sort of created this show. Because there's extensive articles even about Popular that we listened to last week. About like how he created it, etc. And then nothing on Nip Tuck, and then jump to Glee, and then from there everything's very documented.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, this wasn't. Because I just kind of wondered, like culturally was plastic surgery a big thing of conversation during that time? Because he is like a very, I'm going to talk about what's going on right now. And
he's on the pulse.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking, what in 2003 this came out. Where's everybody getting plastic surgery? Did it become like sort of affordable or something,
Yeah, I think that's what they mentioned in the pilot is like, they talk about Botox a lot, like it's this new miracle cure that people are just discovering. So I feel like it is the early days of Botox where it's more accessible, less frowned upon. So I feel like Botox in this is just like they're entering us into the world through a lot of Botox conversation.
Okay, that's true.
And then obviously
because there's
they
weaponize
few
scenes of Botox in this too.
Which I think is most people's first jump into plastic surgery, right? It's either
I think
Botox or a nose job or a boob job. Those are the top three.
And then and fillers too. Fillers are very,
Fillers are. I feel like fillers are more of a new thing though, right?
Yeah. As of now.
Yeah, because plastic surgery used to just be like the rich. The rich would get the plastic surgery.
Yeah.
Now it's like normal housewives get Botox.
I know. Okay, my question, because you live in La La Land, Hollywood, L.A., Los Angeles. Do you know people with plastic surgery?
Yeah, I knew people when I lived in Pennsylvania with plastic surgery. I won't say where, but there was a place that I was at where the women frequently and openly talked about all the plastic surgery they got. Liposuction, nose jobs, Botox. Like they would have, people come to where we were and give them Botox. So yeah, I feel like it's definitely
I didn't know that about
become more of an acceptable thing. But they were also rich. They were well off. But yeah, so it's more common. I think in LA, like within my friend group, like within people I associate with and hang out with, and people I call friends out here, I don't think it's a thing.
What about people where?
But yeah, I mean, yeah, there's for sure people in previous offices, not my current one.
Oh, okay. I see. My only sort of plastic surgery thing that's immediately close to my life is, I think, pretty shamey, and it is, oh God, I don't even know if I could talk about my mom, but I'm going to.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry, Mom. But my mom is very shamey to her two sisters who got boob jobs. That's what she calls them. And because then she's like, I never had to get them. You know, that's like kind of like her vibe. So I always just heard that growing up that they did that, and she didn't have to. So it was always in this slant of shaminess.
Yeah, so I think this show, I think maybe that's kind of what he was going for, is jumping into the plastic surgery world, you know, pulling back that curtain. He loves to pull back a good curtain.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, this is what he was trying to do with this show. But you're right, it is far less documented than a lot of his other shows, and maybe that's because the first season, you know, he's coming off of Popular, which obviously wasn't a hit. So people are like, no, I don't care about this, but it was like a game-changing television show when it all was said and done. And I'm interested to see where it goes from here.
All right, yeah, let's get into this episode.
Okay. So obviously, the pilot of a show with a catchphrase is going to kick off with their catchphrase. So the first thing we hear is, tell me what you don't like about yourself.
Yeah, and that is Sean McNamara. He's played by Dylan Walsh, and he's meeting with two brothers, Alejandro and Perez.
Silvio
Perez, excuse me.
We should also say that this episode, obviously the show was created by Ryan Murphy, but it was also written and directed by Ryan Murphy. I'm going to read their Wikipedia page real quick, just give a broader stroke of the show.
Okay.
Nip Tuck is an American medical drama created by Ryan Murphy, which aired on FX between 2003 and 2010. The series focuses on McNamara and Troy, a plastic surgery practice, and follows its founders, Dr. Sean McNamara and Dr. Christian Troy, portrayed by Dylan Walsh and Julian McMahon, respectively. Each episode typically involves the cosmetic procedures of one or more patients and also features the personal and professional lives of its main cast. This pilot aired on July 22nd, 2003, and concluded with its sixth season in the spring of 2010. With the exception of the pilot, each episode is named after the character that are scheduled to have plastic surgery.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Well, that's where it stands. Yeah, let's dive back in. So, Sean is interviewing Alejandro and Silvio.
Yep, and then so he asked the catchphrase of Nip Tuck is, tell me what you don't like about yourself, which I think is a really interesting question. I think that if someone asked me that during a plastic surgery consultation, I'd be like, well, I'm here for my boobs, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it speaks to Sean's kind of like, I care about people. I need a psychiatrist on this team, sort of guy. So yeah, and then they say, the two brothers saying that they want, what's his name?
Silvio
to get plastic surgery.
Yeah.
And they're pretty honest about because he was with the boss's daughter.
Yeah. It took a minute to get it out of him. He didn't want to tell them why.
Yeah.
He was very standoffish. Right. And first, Sean doesn't speak Spanish, which is like a weird through line through the episode.
No. Yeah.
So first, Sean can't speak to them because he doesn't speak Spanish. So that's when he goes in and gets Christian. And Christian knows Spanish. So Christian's in the middle of an ass implant surgery.
Yeah. So he's like, switch with me.
Yeah.
Because you know Spanish. And then he's like, oh, you're putting in the implant wrong.
Yeah.
So then Christian goes to
and then well I have to say this. When Sean takes over and he's like, you put in the ass implant wrong, and then Christian is leaving, he's like, you saved my ass again. And the nurse is like, and hers. And it's just like the cheesiest. I don't like this intro. I don't like this entire opening part.
Okay. That is something I noticed about this, that I don't like a lot of the character intros in this episode. I feel like they're really half-baked and sort of not inappropriate, but weak, I guess.
Yeah,
you know?
Sure.
So yeah, I thought that was something. I mean, it just kind of immediately screams like, Sean is this sort of guy, doesn't know Spanish, lives in Miami, switches with Christian, who is doing a butt implant wrong.
Yeah.
And then my first thought was like, well, is it upside down?
Yeah.
And then what happens if he didn't catch him at that point? Imagine being that person with it's wrong and you can't sit, all that stuff.
It's malpractice,
That's what
baby.
I immediately thought.
Which, is a good quick way to show. It's a cheesy way, but it's a quick way to show their priorities.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Sean actually cares about the patients. He cares about doing the surgeries correctly, which is important for any surgeon. Christian's more of like, whatever. I'm just kind of, she would have been fine. Sit on it. Who cares?
And so then Christian goes back to meet with the brothers, and then he picks up on that something's kind of fishy here.
Yeah.
And that he wants to get a facial reconstruction surgery because he's on the run from something.
Yeah.
And this sort of scene with the two brothers could be the most problematic moment of the episode. I was kind of just like, yeah, I think that was, in my eyes, I was just kind of watching it, I was just kind of watching to see, because he just kind of like immediately accuses them of being in the cartel and stuff. And maybe he's just like had this happen before living in Miami, being a plastic surgeon, who knows? But I was just kind of like, watching to make sure that both of them just weren't like immediately racist and kind of just like, but I think that they did. They put everything at least sort of correctly, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, he knows where they come from, and then they pull out an alligator suitcase filled with cash. So something shady is happening here.
Well, is it because he has a briefcase, or is it because it's an alligator briefcase?
Well, it's part alligator, which is very expensive, and then it's part that it's just cash in a briefcase, perfectly lined up.
Oh, that's interesting. It was alligator.
Oh,
Wink.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true, yeah. I didn't even think of that.
I didn't think about that
It
either.
says nice
'Cause
alligator.
alligators are this funny through line through this as well, too.
Yeah. Because they're in Florida, and they won't let you forget it.
No, they won't. No, they won't.
So then Silvio says, I'll give you $300,000.
Mm-hmm.
He wants a full face reconstruction. Christian knows something shady's going on, but once he hears $300,000, he's like, okay, well, whatever,
Yep.
You fucked your boss's girlfriend, like, if that's what you're saying you did, whatever, fine, I'll take that as your answer, and we'll go from there. So he convinces Sean to accept him as a patient. One other thing about that scene is I did get the feeling that Christian was like a shady guy at that point. Right? Which I guess
like
is obvious.
the whole look, the whole look of him too. He's like, oh, I don't care about the butt implant.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here. I have the greasiest hair.
Yeah, he wears red and black a lot, like devil colors.
Yeah, he definitely does. Do you find him attractive at all?
In certain lights. I think, I don't know if they do this intentionally, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but I feel like they're perfectly cast in terms of their physical attractiveness. Because they have to be in their 40s, because they have to be successful. They've had to have had time building up to this point. So they have to be in their 40s. 40s is, I guess, kind of where men start to at least show age, maybe, I guess, right? You think?
And I hear what you're saying, because then 40s, there's kind of a theme of a midlife crisis for kind of both of them in this too. So yeah, I agree with you.
So Christian's trying to stay young, and Sean's trying to grow up.
Yeah.
And I think physically they represent that well. With Christian's like hair, it's kind of like, is it a toupee?
God.
Or is it just greasy and weirdly styled, and he's just trying to stay hip? But at the same time, they're both like attractive older men. I don't know.
Yeah, like Sean's cute. Like Sean is a cute dad.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I'm like, oh, you're a cute dad. I just think, because when I was younger watching this, I just thought that Christian was very sexy.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. But in my
Well, you have a daddy
eyes,
fetish.
Wow.
Not to out you.
That's so funny. Not to out my daddy fetish. But yeah, I've always loved older men, you know. But I just think, I'm like, oh, I guess I still find him attractive in here. And I've seen that actor who plays Christian in a few other projects. Just a little bit. He was in the Fantastic Four movie as Doctor Doom. And then he was in another comic book thing on Hulu. He was the villain there. And he was like seemingly less attractive to me, but in this show, I'm like, I would sleep with Christian. I mean,
Yeah, I would too, I think.
Like, I would give it. And then with Sean, no. I don't think so. Like, maybe not even a pity fuck. I'm just like not even attracted to him at that point. But I'm at least glad that I'm still attracted to Christian, because that will make it more interesting to me.
Yeah, something to watch.
Like it. But you'll see Ryan in the way that he directs this is also either attracted to Christian as the character or just like knows how to make it work there, because in later scenes you can really see how sexualized that particular character is.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's what. Yeah, then we jump into the theme intro, which isn't really a theme, not like last week.
I was really surprised that was the intro, because that's the only time that is the intro for Nip Tuck. Otherwise, it's this really interesting artistic like
American Horror Story kind of thing.
Yeah. Like mannequins kind of being just like oozed over with like white paint almost, and kind of symbolizing how you draw on someone prior to plastic surgery.
Yeah.
With a really cool sound and all that stuff. So it just made me think, since we've seen 2 pilots now, like does Ryan, at least at this point, just like doesn't know about intros, or like is he just like willing to change them?
The pilot doesn't matter. He doesn't want one because they're longer how But no, because that last pilot, that added like 4 minutes.
That whole intro though. But let us never forget how popular his intro.
Maybe we'll have to take notice of that. I feel like, once we hit American Horror Story, that's where his themes started becoming important. Like where he would start releasing them early, and people would get excited and see how he changed it. So maybe these first 3, Glee's is just the Glee title card.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe these first 3, he just doesn't focus on it as much.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll have to take notice about that with Glee and going forward, because Glee's is so simple. But
yeah. And then so after the intro, we see. Do we go to the bar?
Yeah. So then Christian is at a bar, Miami bar, right by the pool,
wearing white,
and he runs into a discounted Marilyn Monroe, and her name is Kimber, played by the actress Kelly Carlson. And so they strike up a sultry conversation. She don't care about him at first. She don't care at all. And then somehow Christian mentions that he is a plastic surgeon.
Which he knows what he's doing.
Oh, yeah, of course.
He knows.
She's like, really? And then bam.
Boom.
Cut to a really fun sex scene.
That's what I wrote down. Hot sex montage.
Yeah. So Kimber and Christian are having sex. They're doing coke. We see lots of butts in that scene. Yeah, Kimber definitely has her lifetime on this show. She's a character that you'll see a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, seeing her now, I always thought because of her like funny hair that she looked at like one of those Marilyn Monroe wannabe sort of girls. And now looking at it, what is this lady doing? She's so Florida. That's like Florida hot mom sort of person that she portrays.
Early 2000s.
But I do end up liking her. She's very something. But yeah, so then
she wasn't unlikable. But we should also say that you've seen a lot, and I think we mentioned this a little bit last week, but you've seen a lot of Nip Tuck. I have not seen any of Nip Tuck.
Yeah.
So you have an idea of some, at least kind of where some of the characters go.
Yeah, sort of. I forget a lot. Watching it now is kind of like, oh, okay, I remember.
So during the sex scene with Kimber and Christian, we also parallel that with the sex between Sean and Julia, his wife.
I know.
Which is very like boring, and they keep smash cutting back and forth to Christian railing Kimber and Sean flaccidly pounding Julia.
I know. Well, let's not even give him credit and say pounding, because he was just laying on top of her. His wife, Julia, played by, what's her name? Something Richardson. Jolie Richardson. She's actually British in real life. That's a fun fact. Oh, yeah. And so yeah, they're doing it, and they're both making lists in their head while they're having sex.
Yeah.
You know, like Sean's like, oh, I gotta fire the gardener, and then Julia's making a grocery list.
Yeah.
Or Julia, his wife, is making a grocery list, and it's kind of like, okay, and then bam, cut to like doing coke off of Kimber's ass.
Yeah.
And then like,
which that sex scene was like the scene that made me like, yeah, Christian's hot.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
definitely. And then he has like a really forceful orgasm.
Yeah.
I wrote that down. I'm like, I said, Christian has the biggest orgasm.
I think they want to emphasize his pleasure in orgasming versus Sean's when he comes. It's just he doesn't make a sound. He doesn't even whimper.
Sean came.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe he didn't. But it just kind of was like, yeah, I'm done.
It's like and then she pats him on the back like, okay, hop off.
Get off
Hop
me.
off. I want to shower. I've never, I was thinking, I was like, I don't know if I've ever made a grocery list during sex, but I definitely have had like work related thoughts creep up on me, like things I forgot to do or something. And I'm quickly like, no, Andrew, throw that away, you know? But I've never been like, I need bananas and avocados.
I'm too self-conscious. I'm like, are we both enjoying this? Are we having fun?
Do I have your consent?
Make
with
more
this?
noise.
I know. Oh, God. And that's another thing, yeah, to go back to character intros. Like, okay, that's his wife. She's on the show for the entire time. And, like, that's kind of how you're going to introduce her. I feel like that's, like, disrespectful to the character overall.
Yeah.
You know, it makes sense to again, balance Christian and Sean's life. They're different, obviously.
Yeah.
But for the character of Julia, I feel like she deserved a little bit more of a better intro there.
I think they want to showcase how unhappy she is in her marriage and how sad her life is, because that's kind of where she's going. She's trying to get out of that life. That's her main motivation for the pilot.
Got it. Yeah,
So I think
you're
showing that, yeah, it's definitely like, you know, you don't want to introduce a woman by being sadly fucked while she makes a grocery list. It's pretty offensive, but I think that's kind of, they set her up purposefully that way. Like if her whole thing throughout the episode was just sadly getting fucked and cleaning the house, you know, that would be one thing, but it goes off the rails a little bit.
Okay. All right. I see what you're saying. After they have sex, Kimber and Christian have a sexy talk in front of the mirror because obviously then, you know,
on the
plastic surgery comes up. Kimber says that she is 21 and Christian says, no, you're 26. Because when she said 21, I was like, no, you ain't. You're not. You might be 34.
I wrote that down too.
Kimber.
I was like, she is not. I knew she wasn't 21.
No, I know. It's like, but that's okay. You keep, that's fine. But Christian's like, no, you're 26.
Yeah.
And yeah, he basically they have like a funny
And then
dialogue.
he calls her an 8.
Yeah. She's like, I want to be a 13, you know, whatever the hell she says. And so then he pulls out some of her lipstick and then starts basically just going over her imperfections on her body.
Yeah, he puts her naked in front of a mirror and just starts lipsticking her areas.
Yeah, like every place that she could potentially get plastic surgery on.
Yeah.
And I think when she stands in front of the mirror, I don't know if that's an iconic scene, but I feel like it's an iconic scene, you know, because a lot of the imagery going forward with Nip Tuck has a lot of that sort of
circling and dotting and arrows.
Circling line work, definitely. And this is kind of like the first sort of taste of like, well, I want to be perfect. I want to look perfect sort of thing. And again, I don't know why I feel like maybe the early aughts was the media and the culture at the time, I think, was kind of obsessed with perfection and wanting that sort of thing, kind of like what we talked about earlier. I'm going to find receipts for next time, maybe just culturally of like what was kind of going on. Because when that whole scene was going on, the dialogue felt really Ryan Murphy to me when he's talking about cultural things. And that's why I'm kind of getting this sort of like, it must have been something going on.
Yeah.
because it's like quote unquote shocking to see this like really pretty white girl have all of this, potential surgery lines on her. So what does that say? And that's very Ryan to do that, like this hottie who is a 10 wants to be a 15. Basically.
And it's interesting that I assumed that she would like see that and be like, oh, I don't need it. And I thought maybe that's what he was doing.
Oh, okay.
But he's never trying to not sell, I guess, is kind of this guy's move,
okay.
Right?
Oh, that's
so
interesting.
I kind of mixed up his motivations there. I assumed that maybe he was like, I'm going to show you all your flaws. So you're like, no, like you circled my abdomen. I have abs,
Am I really this ugly? I was homecoming queen.
Don't be upset. Let your shortcomings and flaws fuel you. Let them push you further than you ever thought you could go. When you stop striving for perfection, you might as well be dead.
So I feel like that's kind of like the thesis statement for his character. It's like that's kind of his motivation is throughout. And I don't know, that would just be my prediction. I don't know, obviously, where he goes, but I feel like throughout the pilot we kind of see that this is kind of his philosophy in life. He wants more money, he wants more beauty, he wants more happiness in terms of trying to get Julia.
Which will play into when Julia and him have this scene, because the next scene in this is Julia is at home talking to Sean about her breasts.
Yeah.
And she's like, I want, what did she say?
She's like, do you think I need a boob job?
A boob job,
a breast implants or whatever?
Yeah, and then Sean gives like his just like very medical opinion.
Yeah.
Like he's just like being professional and just kind of just like very turned off by it. And I would be too. That's not something you say to your wife. Come on. He's just so fucking blind. He's like a blind bitch and he just doesn't understand. And I just, it's like, you shouldn't be doing that to
That's
her.
why I wrote down, I was like, he is clueless. Because she's trying, I feel like she's trying for him. Right?
Yeah.
I feel like she doesn't come off as the type of person that wants it for her. Maybe one thing to make herself feel better. Maybe she thinks that'll help her be happier. But in turn, I think she also thinks it'll make him happier. That's why she's asking him. And he says, you have the right sag for your age or something like that. Something like grossly unromantic. And then she just, then they get into an argument about the gerbil.
Yeah.
And
Sean, being the father of the year, is like, yeah, youngest daughter, you can bring your gerbil home.
Yeah.
And it's like another sort of like, well, no, you probably couldn't, because it's that sort of dynamic. Like the man works, the wife stays at home.
Yeah.
She has to pay for any decision that he makes without talking to her first.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't have been happy about that. I feel like I am defending Julia a lot this episode already, and I don't even like her as a character. I just like, well, I don't remember really loving Julia because she's always sad and has sad eyes like this. But for whatever reason, for right now, I'm like, no, that's so stupid.
Adult Andrew really stands Julia.
I know. I stan Julia. I'm a Julia stan. I'm gonna make a Julia stan Twitter.
Who's your favorite Nip Tuck character? Julia.
People were like, who? All right, so I have here that we are introduced to his kids at breakfast. So his oldest son, Matt, who I had written down Matt and his eyebrows, because his eyebrows are a statement.
Yes, he has very dramatic features throughout his face.
Yeah, he is. It's very something. It's like, okay.
It's
anyways,
very something.
And then his youngest daughter, Annie. This scene basically just shows that Sean, again, is like kind of checked out of his family as of now. Because the son is doing research on alligators. And he's like, you already asked me this question, Dad. I already told you about the alligators. I'm not going to tell you about the alligators again.
But then the daughter does. Which is important information for later on.
Yeah.
They talk
to
about
be continued.
To be continued. But they talk about how alligators have finicky diets. And that when an island wanted to hunt alligators, they would use dead bodies to attract them, but alligators don't really like dead bodies.
And then next they have, so then you think everybody's going to school, but Matt actually goes on the boat with Christian, and this is their first scene together.
Yeah, Christian and Matt. Okay, so like, I don't want you to tell me, but like, are these his kids? Or is he just so obsessed with Julia that he just like, these have to be his kids. Like, at least Matt has to be his son.
I think for now, well, because I don't want to say anything with the viewers either, but for now, I think it's just like he is entrenched in that family. You know, like he's a part of the dynamic of that marriage. You know,
it's his best friend, and they call him Uncle Christian. I get all that. So it could just be, you know, he's just close and he's the cool uncle that can answer questions. But the way Christian acts and talks and like conversates with Julia, it's like, bitch, these ain't your kids. But then, are they?
You're like, oh, well, we've all been there. Trust me.
We've all had kids with our best friend.
So Matt's talking with Christian about how he wants a circumcision because he wants to have sex with his girlfriend, and he gets made fun of being uncircumcised in the locker room. The boat is also named Boat Talks.
The Boat Talks.
Did you catch that? I was like,
I did.
Funny.
I wrote down The Boat Talks. LOL.
That is funny.
So clearly we see that Matt is more comfortable with Christian than he is with his own father. So we see that rift there. And then we jump into the office with Sean, and he's having a consultation with a woman who wants her son to have plastic surgery once he's finished his skin grafts. But they don't have a lot of money. And Sean says that they don't have any openings for 6 months, which is, I guess, a cover to not have to deny them for not having money.
Yeah, basically, because then this is like a very Ryan Murphy moment too.
Yeah.
Just as far as like, because then the mom stands up, and you know it's a Spanish mom too. You know, they don't have any sort of money, and then once he finds that out, he's like, "Well, we actually don't have any openings for 6 months." And she's like, "Well, if I was just somebody that wanted a boob job, you would squeeze me in, you know.
Yeah.
But this is something that actually matters because my son got burned."
The next time you've got some little size 4 on your table and you're giving her liposuction she really doesn't need, you think of my Joey and what you could have done for him. Shame on you.
And then Sean, being the dumbass that he is like, oh, I needed to be told that, because people like Sean need to be told that. Otherwise, they will still continue to just be walking as blind as they are.
Mm-hmm. They need to be put in their place. They need to be shamed. And then Christian and, with the guilt on Sean's shoulders, Christian and Sean have a conversation about Matt wanting a circumcision.
Mm-hmm.
Because Matt is embarrassed about his uncircumcised penis.
Well, can I tell you something?
Please
I
do.
don't even know if I'm allowed to say this. But, so I'm uncircumcised, right?
Yeah.
And in high school, I was also made fun of being uncircumcised at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It was like me and the only other brown person on my cross country team. So eventually I just like always tried to hide it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it is like, I guess, a real thing. And then, you have all of these worries of like, well, is it, people say it's going to smell, and these sort of like immature, novice sexual ideas of what an uncircumcised dick is.
Yeah.
And it's gross and it's not. And then, so I totally felt that. I think it's crazy at whatever age he is to try to get circumcised, because that, God, it just makes me clench.
Yeah.
But then now, being gay and being uncircumcised, I'm much happier about it.
Yeah. I feel like, I feel like there's still a stigma in the gay community about uncircumcised penises for sure.
You do?
I do, yeah.
Tell me what you think.
Well, I just feel like I see profiles on Grindr and all these places where they say, no uncut or cut only, I feel like I see that pretty frequently, enough to remember it. And yeah, to your point, I feel like most white kids are circumcised. Mm-hmm. So to see an uncircumcised, especially if you're not gay and you only watch like, straight white porn.
Sure.
You don't see an uncircumcised penis I didn't see, and I don't think I saw an uncircumcised penis until, especially in real life, until I moved to LA. You might have been the first uncircumcised penis I've seen.
God, I mean, I was always naked.
You're always naked. So I feel like yours was the first one. I was like, oh, okay, that's an uncircumcised penis.
Well, yeah, it's definitely.
But
it's
there are
like
those stigmas as well.
Yeah, I'm Puerto Rican, and I asked at a really young age to my dad why I was. And he said, I was born in a house. You think that I went to a doctor to get circumcised?
Yeah.
They're like, no, and so then it's just traditionally the men in my family, obviously are uncircumcised. And that's funny that you say that in LA that you see. I don't see that shit in Chicago sort of online profiles of like uncut, no uncut sort of thing, because that's definitely some bullshit. I'd be like, well, no, I've only had very, very few people turn around and be like, but because in my opinion, and not to like toot my own horn or tug my own dick, but like, I get propped up like, oh,
Squeeze,
uncut,
squeeze.
Cool, ding, I'm putting you at the top of the list. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I think about it now, and maybe because I feel some sort of vague happiness about it, because I did definitely have insecurities growing up about being uncircumcised and being the only one of two out of the entire cross country team to be that way. So so now I'm like, yeah, look at me, I'm gay. Look at me.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, most people are uncircumcised. All European people are uncircumcised. It's just a white American thing that it's that people are uncircumcised or are circumcised.
Well, look at us. We needed to have this conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And we represent both ends of the spectrum too.
Ooh, yeah. See, look at us.
Look at us.
So, I mean, I
Captain
disagree
Hood
with
and no
Matt.
hat.
Well, I just think as far as Matt wanting to be circumcised at 16, I've only ever heard that it would take away from
16
this.
full 5 o'clock shadow.
Oh my God, I know, with the eyebrows. With it just being like you lose a lot of sensitivity. And it's really crazy. I think it's almost in his mindset because his father's a plastic surgeon that he's even able to do that, and probably his privilege too. He's like, well, I'm just gonna get it. I don't like it. I'm 16. I want it to be taken off. Oof. God, I'm clenching again.
I don't know how I would feel if I was the only one uncircumcised in school, and if I would want. Did you want to be uncircumcised? Were you embarrassed enough where you were like, oh fuck, like I wish I wasn't?
Never. I wish I wasn't. I just really didn't want to be picked on for that because I was already internally closeted.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to look at my friends' dicks in the cross country room. I didn't want them to look at mine. I wanted to get changed.
Yeah.
I had like that sort of fear in that. So I never wanted to change it. And I didn't know about the beneficial factors that go into it until later in life. And I was like, oh my God, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I don't think my parents would say yes to that. But it's a family thing,
So once Christian and Matt are done, Christian and Sean are done talking about the circumcision, they talk about kind of weird exposition about how Christian used to date Julia before she dated Sean.
Yeah.
And that's something we kind of figured at this point, right? Do we think that Christian? I mean, it's just weird how close he is to their family. I feel like so. It's like what is he trying to infiltrate here?
I feel like they have had that conversation many a times. Like, well,
Yeah.
I dated her first. Well, you only went out on one
Because
day
Christian's
and
a piece
she
of shit
didn't
that would bring
kiss
it up
you.
all the time.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like to kind of hang that over him or whatever.
Because he's a bully too. And then they get to a point in the conversation where Sean's like, "Well, maybe I don't want to be in this business anymore."
How many times is he gonna say that? You think?
Yeah. So I feel like that's the first sign where we're like, "Oh, this is on the rocks," and then we jump into the montage that you were talking about, the plastic surgery montage, to Paint It Black by AC/DC.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. They do this every episode. They do this sort of put on a really interesting song to really gory plastic surgery, you know? And I think it's and they take their time with the scenes every episode. So this was like a fun. I thought it was a great song choice too. I don't think the lyrics didn't have any meanings towards this, but I just thought it was really shot well.
Yeah, this was a great sequence. This should have been the opening. This should have been the very first scene.
Okay, yeah, because all the other.
I think having this scene, while as someone who knows that this is about plastic surgery and that kind of stuff, we're gonna see that. It was a little jarring, So I think it would have been much more powerful, and I think it would have made a better intro than the intro that they have, if it was just kicked off right with that plastic surgery. Like even after that little bit of an interview with Silvio, and then they jump into
Okay,
his plastic
and then cut to it. Yeah. Sure, I can hear that.
I think that would have worked better.
Was the music jarring, or what?
Just like the graphic nature of the scene. Just how they're cutting his face and cutting his neck and sucking out and putting in, which I'm fine with because it's what I expect. But I think it would have been an interesting just for this episode to have seen that as one of the first things. But it was an interesting scene, and I loved this little montage of Silvio getting his full face restored.
So then, after the surgery, Sean finds out that Christian got $300,000 from the brothers.
Yeah.
And is obviously mad. And he finds out because I have here that a steam room?
No, he finds out from Alejandro, Silvio's brother. He's like, does the $300,000 cover his stay in the hospital? And that's when Sean is like, $300,000? What the fuck? But when Christian makes the deal originally, he doesn't tell him that it was for $300,000. He thinks it's for $30,000 or $20,000.
Yeah.
So once he finds out from Alejandro that he paid $300,000, he goes to confront Christian.
Yeah.
And Christian doesn't really apologize.
No, he does not. He's like, I'm doing this for the business, bitch.
And then he finds out that Christian's ordering a steam room for the hospital.
I know, because there must have been some sort of like delivery or construction worker down the hallway saying like, "You still want this steam room though?" Like,
conveniently during that conversation.
Because during that whole conversation, I was just like, okay, obviously Sean is mad, and then I heard steam room, and I was like, I love a steam room. Yeah. Wait. Steam room? No, I don't like steam rooms. I like saunas. Steam rooms just make you wet, and I never understand that. I'm like, what is a steam? Obviously it opens up my nose, whatever. But I'm just wet now. I like saunas because I like to feel hot. Anyways, sure. So why does a plastic surgery place need a steam room? When are you gonna do that? Before your surgery? After your surgery? Does that have any health benefits to it? I don't know. That's a large expense.
I feel like it's just for them.
You do?
Yeah, right?
Like just for Christian to have a steam room at the office.
Yeah.
That's like okay.
Unless they're going to start turning the office into a spa.
I thought it was going to be like some sort of like holistic sort of add-on to your plastic surgery. But they don't even stay there after the plastic surgery. They go to a separate hospital. So it's like, why do you... What a bitch.
And then I wrote down again that I don't like either of these guys.
Yeah,
so
it's not a very
This is kind of the tipping
point
of the episode where we get to the main style of how these episodes are going to go, I feel
this
like.
is when things start
We set up like 30
changing.
minutes of exposition, and now we're getting into like the flow of how these episodes are going to work.
It so was.
Yeah. And then Julia's in the waiting room while Matt is getting a consultation from Sean.
Oh, yeah.
And Christian comes in, and they have a brief little moment together after we know that they used to date. And then he says, I miss my kids.
I know, he did say that.
Like, that's so weird.
I know, he says it to Julia, and it just makes me think, like, has Christian just not been around the family for a while? And why is that sort of thing?
But he was just with Matt.
I know. I don't get it. I didn't get that either. So it's like, okay. I think it's just kind of to show, who knows, maybe their sort of connection, Julia and Christian's connection.
Yeah.
Because they actually have really good chemistry, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, if Julia's like sad housewife with Sean, she's like completely wet when talking to Christian.
Yeah.
She's like, she's into it immediately. And so I was like, oh, at least there's that.
Yeah. Then we see Sean and Matt talking. And Matt says that Christian actually listens to him.
Well, yeah, because Sean is giving his own son a consultation by the books. Like, tell me what you don't like about yourself,
Well, he
son.
says, tell me what you do like about yourself.
Oh, that's what he says?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, they basically Sean wants to convince him not to get the circumcision.
Yeah, and I would too.
And then he says he's self-conscious about being uncut. He gets made fun of in the locker room, all that kind of stuff, which seems to be true to life.
And so the Christian visits the two brothers in the recovery wing of the hospital, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then the brother who did get surgery is not where he's supposed to be.
He's not in his bed.
Because he's actually feeding ice cream to a little girl in another room.
Yes.
And that's our first indication of like, ooh.
Yeah. So
because the way that there you go.
So he has this scary mask on too, this like recovery mask that keeps his skin, I guess, together. Mm-hmm. So it's very like Texas Chainsaw Massacre almost, except it's like a smooth leather. But yeah, they go to the room to look for. Christian goes to check on him. Alejandro says he's not in here, and then Christian says, "Where else would he be?" And then they go to a different floor of the hospital and see him feeding ice cream to this 6-year-old girl.
And that's when Christian's...
Or this, she's not 6. She's
young.
She's younger, though. But yeah.
She's little. That's when Christian's predator flags start flying up. You know,
yes.
because then the brothers initially put it as, I slept with my boss's girl.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. And then Christian's like...
During our consultation, your brother said he was with the boss's girl. How old was she? She was 6.
So that's when we find out that Silvio is a pedophile.
Yeah.
Who's running from these people who are looking for him because they molested his daughter, because he molested their daughter, and we find out that Christian took $300,000 from a pedophile to basically help him not get caught.
Yeah.
And then we see that
I wonder if that weighs on him at all.
I don't know, because he's a creep. We see that very creepy shot dollying down the hallway into the elevator where the guy is just waving at the little girl. That was a very scary shot, which is great. It did its purpose. That was one of my favorite shots of the episode. There's a lot of great direction in this. Ryan Murphy did a very good job directing this episode. I mean, it's such a fucking long pilot.
Yeah, it's like when I saw how long it was, I was like, over an hour.
I was like, oh, this will be 40 minutes. No, it's an hour long.
So yeah, then after that creepy hospital scene, they are back in the office. It's Sean and Liz. And Liz is the anesthesiologist, the woman with the curly hair. Mm-hmm. She's definitely a character on the show, too.
Yeah, I love her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you liked Liz?
We love her. We love Liz. We stand Liz in this house.
Oh, so you're a Liz stan.
I'm a Liz stan.
I'm a sad Julia I stan. So something happened with Kimber's stitches, because I guess she got plastic surgery at some point, and she's like being very, I want to talk to my surgeon, blah, blah, blah. And then they just give her the tea. And they're like, do you think that you're the first sort of pretty girl to come in here and get surgery by Christian? And then Liz and Sean are both like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's basically the cut of the scene. Sean, again, gets mad at Christian.
Yes. So that's when he finally snaps. And then we cut to Julia watching that old tape.
I know. Videotapes.
That's what you did. That's how you reminisce. There was no time hop back then.
Shut the fuck up.
And so she's watching an old home video of her, Christian, and Sean talking. She's pregnant. Christian is still creepy to her.
Yeah.
Sean's still sad and like the little brother of Christian, and Christian's still the alpha male, and
basically.
And then Christian enters.
Christian enters, and then there's and then this is where I kind of picked up on their like steamy chemistry. Mm-hmm. Because then Christian's like, what are you doing? Are you watching videos to see how your breasts were?
Yeah.
You know? Like immediately just kind of reads her for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know, is this like, was he being creepy, or was he just being like sexy because they're both obviously attracted to each other when he's like, show me your breast?
Yeah. Because if they dated, that means he's seen them before, right? So it's less weird.
Yeah, I think so. But then he.
Oh no, because they only kissed.
Well, that's what they said. You know, that's what
excuse
I
me.
guess. Oh, girl. So they're talking, and then he immediately he reads that Julia is watching these videos because she's looking at her former young glory when things were better. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And it fast forwards to Christian being like, show me your breast. I'm a professional doctor. I do over blah, blah, blah consultations a year. And she's like, well, should I? this bra is really tight.
She doesn't even think about it.
But that was a decent episode, I thought. Or not an episode, a decent scene between them two.
Oh, yeah, it was super hot,
You know
too.
what I mean? It was like, oh, yeah. And then she's just like, well, here's my titties. There you go. And then he says that they are perfect.
Yeah.
And that was like a good reward for everything, because Sean sits there and be like, well, yeah, you're sagging just perfectly after after breastfeeding. And then Christian's like, you have perfect titties.
Yeah.
And then
dem titties tight. That's what he says. Dem titties tight.
And then she's like, that's exactly what she needed to hear. So
a second opinion from a different doctor.
As an audience member viewing this, it's like, well, should she be a Christian? You know, he understands her.
But at the same time, but my thought was like, Sean said this first, bitch.
Sean, what?
Sean said your breasts were perfect first.
But Sean didn't put it right.
I know, but he still the sentiment was still there.
Oh, okay.
So that was honestly that was my first thought. I was like, oh, Sean was right. Like, he wasn't just blowing her off, you know? And your first thought was like, fuck Christian now.
Give him that. Give him that. Those two.
He's earned it.
I know.
But yeah, Will's learning Spanish. Or Will. Who the fuck's Will?
Will Schuster? Girl, that's next episode. That is next episode.
He looks like a Will. Like, this guy could have auditioned for Will Schuster.
I can see that. So he comes in hype. He just fired the gardener.
Yeah.
And then Julia just had this really interesting moment with Christian, who, you know.
So she's all charged up.
She's charged, he's charged, and he's like, I fired the gardener. And then she basically turns around and she's like, that's your fucking problem.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, good. Go, Julia.
She's like, I just had my nipples rubbed, motherfucker. She's like, let me tell you what's been bothering me now.
Okay. I know. Well, I love in most TV shows when couples fight.
Yeah.
I think with that's a screaming match between couples is always really interesting, because then there's certain little fucking digs that you can do, and they started digging at each other.
This was such a good fight scene. The way it was shot and the way it was written. It was one of my favorite scenes.
I really enjoyed that fight scene too.
This is the right thing for me. I've wanted to do pro bono work for a while now. I'm going to do that. I saw this boy the other day. He's horribly burned. I want to spend my time and my talent working on people like him. Liz is coming with me, and she also... What the hell is it with people in this house doing things in my head?
Finally, some passion. Congratulations, you're not bloodless after all. Do you know how long it has been since I have heard you laugh? Since I have seen you be emotional about anything? Jesus, Sean, I haven't seen you cry since Matt was born.
I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm a surgeon. If I get emotional, patients die.
I'm not one of your patients, Sean. I'm your wife. And on your watch, a death has occurred. The death of you and me. This marriage doesn't even have a pulse anymore.
Are we being completely honest?
Yes.
I guess I don't respect you like I used to.
Finally, the floodgates open.
What do you do with your days, Julia? You shop, you get your vagina waxed like some porn starlet, you go to lunch with your girlfriend. Sorry, that seems like easy street to me. And yet when I come home, you're stoned. You don't show me any respect, even though I think the life I've given you is pretty goddamn sweet.
You gave me nothing. I made this life with you. But do you think this is what I wanted? To be some Stepford doctor's wife? It's not.
Well, then change your life. Change it like I'm changing mine.
This isn't change, Sean. This is a whim. You want change? How about my change? How about me going back to college and getting my doctor's degree when Annie goes back to school next year? That's my change, the change we've talked about for the last 10 years. Apparently you've forgotten about that.
So one line she does say in this fight that I think, it's kind of the last two lines of the entire fight, is basically she's like,
if you think that I am going to go back to the bottom and work 2 part-time jobs and set on my dream again so you can whistle your way through a midlife crisis, you're horribly mistaken.
My God. When was the last time we went to bed that you didn't hate me?
Ooh, yeah, she did say that, though.
I love that line.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is like, it's a great fight scene. They get all their frustrations out. I don't know how this marriage is going to stay together, if it gets better or what, where it goes from here. But it's interesting that the first episode, they use that to kind of show how on the rocks they are, but at the same time, still like a family unit. So Christian first goes to get Sean back to the practice because Sean has quit the practice after the whole
he does
Christian
this thing.
debacle, and seeing the money and seeing how shady Christian is and how he's been treating him. He decides he wants to go for the pro bono work, and he leaves the practice. He says he's quitting. So he gets his own little office in a strip mall, and that's also where he's been sleeping since the fight with Julia.
Oh.
So Christian goes to the office to get him back, and they have a big scene where they yell at each other, and basically Christian says, if you don't come back, I will sue you and take everything, including Matt's college fund.
You signed a contract with me, a corporation contract. In case you forgot, the contract stipulates that if the corporation is dissolved, which I see now that it is, the disbanding partner has to buy the other partner out.
I don't want anything but a clean start.
Tough shit. You pay up. You've got 1 week, or I hire a lawyer and freeze your assets. Then I come after your home, your pension plan, maybe Matt's college fund.
You would
try me!
So we see that. So Sean's left with the decision of whether he needs to go back or if he wants to continue following his new dream, because being a rich plastic surgeon is no longer his dream.
Woe is him.
So then we see Julia apply for college, and then she snaps and kills the gerbil.
Oh, yeah. She does.
She's like, fuck you. She's like, I'm done. She's like, you're going to clean this fucking pool? I'm a
Well, did she kill the gerbil? Yeah, she did.
And then I'm going to kill your sister's gerbil.
And then she flushed it down the
flushed
toilet.
a live gerbil down the toilet.
Oh. But it didn't look like a gerbil. It had a whole rat tail. I don't know if gerbils look like that. I'll Google it later.
Yeah, I don't know, actually.
Because I was like, that has a tail. She's holding it by a tail, and she flushed it down the toilet. It's like, ooh. And then she, like, the funny thing, I kind of laughed about this, because then she, like, looked up after doing it and realizing it, and then it's almost like she looked into the camera and then shut the door, like we were watching it. And
I was really? I didn't notice that.
Yeah, and I was like, oh.
Huh. Interesting.
So I thought that was a great moment.
And then we cut to a scene where we it's alluded to a flashback of Christian possibly having been molested by his dad.
Yeah.
Is that what you think that is foreshadowing?
That's what I was getting the vibe of.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was like he passes a kid that looks like him, and then he just had that experience at the hospital as well. So yeah, it's like that sort of weird filter flashback, and then but then it almost is funny because then when he's having that flashback and then it ends, it hypes him up in a way.
Yeah.
Because then he's like, all right, I'm done the elevator. I'm at the floor that I need to be.
Because he's suppressing all these emotional moments, and
yeah, and he's like, and then cut to a funny music choice. I don't know what that song was, but it was kind of like, look how hot Christian is music. and then he's walking, in this hallway, and models are passing him and waving to him and winking, and he's just like, yeah, I'm the shit.
So basically, he goes to this penthouse at the request of a woman who has a bunch of models, I guess, and they all want Botox. So he brings a suitcase full of Botox to this penthouse to give all these models Botox, at the comfort of their penthouse, I guess. But then we jump back to the scene with the pedophile, and Sean is doing a consultation on him because he's supposed to be checked out of the hospital today, and Christian says, fuck that guy. He's not checking on him, so Sean, being the great doctor that he is, follows through and goes to check on the patient, and that's when Alejandro tells him he wants a waist, he wants to trim a few inches off his waist as well, so he wants to get some liposuction. And Sean says if he wants to trim a few inches off his waist, tell him to stop eating Cheetos. And he walks out, and that's when he sees Silvio speaking English for the first time.
Oh yeah, because then Silvio kind of chimes in, and he's like, what about for $20,000 to start your new business? Because Sean had explained that, I'm starting a new practice. I'm not making it off of blood money. He's like, well, what about more money? He's like, well, then yes. And then I have, what the hell did I write down here? Because I was like, Sean, you're not fucking better than Christian. And you think that you are a pro bono bitch, and you're gonna go start this new thing, but at the end of the day, you also took the blood money. So put your head down.
Yeah, and I don't think, I think maybe he thinks he's better than Christian, but I never got in the point of the episode where I was like, oh, he's so much better than Christian, because again, I hate them both so much.
No, I never felt that he thinks that shit.
Yeah. So Sean agrees to it, and then we cut back to the penthouse where Christian's administering the last Botox treatment to the head model, if you want to call her that. And she says, hang on, there's one more girl that wants to get a treatment. And she walks out of the room, and then two burly guys walk in the room. And we know something's about to go down.
So then, remember earlier when it was Silvio was with the boss's daughter? Well, this is the boss, and his name is Escobar, and Escobar is really sexy to me. I was just like, "Hey, Escobar!"
Oh yeah,
yeah. Oh my god, definitely. In a second.
No, he didn't do it for me.
And so then slowly you find out that he's the boss that they were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
and then he starts sexy torturing Christian. And I was just like, yeah.
Sexy torture.
I'm so here for the sexy torture. Because I was like, because they were doing something in some sort of room lit in red. And then Escobar's like, where's your partner? He has my guy.
Well, first he drowns him in the tub until he tells him where Silvio is.
And then to be drowned in a tub, you have to be shirtless.
Obviously.
So it's a lot of eroticism for me when I was watching. I was
no, Christian, with his lightly hairy chest and, Yeah.
Oh, yeah, just getting, like, slightly drowned.
Bruises and cuts. It's great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sexy torture.
So that's, at that point, he's like, you're hiding a pedophile. And Christian's like, yeah, you're fucking right, I am. So he tells him where he is at the hospital. Yeah. So they go to the hospital to see, and he's gone because Sean checked him out because he's doing the liposuction at his backdoor clinic in that strip mall. So the guys keep Christian tied up to a chair because they realize he's not there. So where the fuck is he? Where is your partner? And he says his partner's in San Francisco because Christian's trying to help save Sean. Which, still not enough to make me like you.
No, still not. But it shows loyalty or whatever in the face of sexy torture.
Sure.
And speaking of sexy torture, let's just talk about it. Okay, we're in the room with red lighting. And Christian's on the chair, shirtless, as you do. And then it's a circular room, if I imagine correctly. And then Escobar is going to start...
Big fireplace?
Yeah, definitely a fireplace. And then Escobar starts taking off his tie and taking off his shirt.
Yeah, why is he getting naked?
But that's what I'm saying, sexy torture. But I was like, okay, that's when I started going, okay, And then basically then he takes out the Botox. And that's a very a very light metaphor for any sort of insinuation of rape too, because you're injecting something into someone, and especially...
Well, he's weaponizing his biggest strength, which is being a plastic surgeon. He's turning it against him.
Because especially then he Botoxes his
Botox is the peen.
But I was like, well, you just touch it first, Escobar.
Yeah,
just
let's see an outline.
You have to do an alcohol wipe, I assume. And so then you might as well just take your time, Escobar.
Yeah. And then in between all of these, him, being beat up by Escobar and being injected with lipo until he tells him where Sean is, we see that Sean is working on Silvio in his office and liposuctioning out the fat, and we see a gruesome kind of how they do liposuction. But then we see Alejandro pull out a gun secretly. There's a gun in the room. Never show a gun unless you're going to use it, Storytelling 101.
Well, because Alejandro had paid Sean more money to be in the room while his brother was getting lipo. For I don't know what reason, but Sean's like, okay, money.
Yeah.
And so then, he's in there and he's like, he pulled out a gun.
So he pulls out a gun, and obviously we all think it's to kill Liz and Sean because he doesn't want to pay them or whatever. But he tells him quickly to get Silvio off of the anesthesia so that he can talk to him. And like if we wake him up in the middle of the surgery, he's going to die. And he says, wake him up. So they wake him up, and Alejandro explains that his girlfriend's pregnant, and that he's going to have a daughter soon, and he can't have his brother around his daughter. He won't let it. He's a sick man. He needs to kill him. So he basically takes him off the air after a gross scene where he struggles for a little bit, and the tube pops out, and his fat goes everywhere.
There's like everywhere. I know. I was like,
so the room's covered in his gross fat, and then he slowly dies, and Alejandro's sad, and he kills his brother because he has to. His brother's sick.
Well, he went that far defending him, so I think I don't know. You went that far.
Just find out that your girlfriend's pregnant?
It's not untypical of men to then have a daughter and change their views on everything. You know, many songs have been written about that. So he's like, oh, okay, well, now I'm gonna kill you when you're in, and at least you're going and you have a little bit of lipo. Yeah, before you got so good in your casket. Oh God! And then what? So then Christian eventually is like, okay, I'll tell you where.
Then Christian, they get a call that from Sean calls Christian, and Escobar answers, and he says, and he tells Escobar that Silvio's dead, and he tells him to come, and Christian tells him where to go, and they go to confirm that he's dead, and Escobar and the bodyguard walk in. They see Alejandro holding his dead brother's hand, and basically they're like, all right, he's dead, let's go, bye.
You chose Escobar says you chose the right family.
Yeah, and then he takes Alejandro with him.
And then Liz and Sean and Christian then have a fight, obviously, about the body and what we're gonna do. And Liz is like, I'm tired of your shit.
Yeah, but I'm gonna stay around. This will be fun. But like, if I was Escobar, first of all, I probably would have killed Christian at that point. By that point, second, I would have probably killed them all if we got to the point where there's a dead body. Third, I'm not taking Alejandro's ass back into my clan after his brother molested my 6th. He just didn't seem mad enough about what happened. You know what I mean?
Like that's when things were kind of rushing a little bit to get to like the next sort of point.
Yes.
Which was, so then they are left, just Christian and Sean are left with the body because Liz leaves it by, take care of it.
Yes.
And so then you go to a grocery store. Christian is now feeling the side effects of all the Botox that was injected in him. Yeah. By sexy injected into him. And they're buying a lot of ham.
Yes.
Ham on ham on ham. And then all of a sudden we're still in Florida. Don't you forget it. And we're by an alligator lake. And those are things in Florida, if I remember Florida correctly. They tie all the hams up to Silvio. I'm still thinking about Escobar. To Silvio. And then kind of some explanation, so it's like, well, that will trick the alligators into eating the body. Hopefully they eat all of it because the ham.
So that's what he says, that the alligators are finicky, which he learned from his son earlier, which shows that he's listening to his son finally. So he gets the ham so that the alligator will actually eat some of, if not all of, Silvio. So that they can dispose of the body.
Then the alligator starts eating it.
Yeah.
What are we gonna say? Then they're cleaning out the back. Sean becomes very stoic and like, all right, we need to clean out the back now. We need to do this, this, and that. And Christian's like, oh, what a scary side of you.
Yeah.
And I guess the episode kind of ends with like, okay, well, they're reconnecting basically now.
Yeah, they reconnected. They compromised. Sean says 20% of our work has to be pro bono. Christian says okay, and then he also says, what else did he say?
Oh, he wants a psychiatrist. He definitely wants a psychiatrist.
A psychiatrist to consult their patients beforehand. Does this compromise and Christian saving Sean and all this stuff, does this save any of them, or does it redeem any of them? Do I still like these two guys at the end of the episode? No. I don't like them. I don't like their fucking attitude. I don't like their smirk. No, I don't connect with these guys as protagonists. I don't care about them. I think it's an interesting world, so that's kind of what I'm in it for now.
Okay.
And maybe, character growth, hopefully. These guys will grow on me, and I'll start to like them. I think I'll like Christian more than Sean. I agree. I'm a bad boy type.
Obviously.
But, I'm interested to see kind of where this world goes now that Julia's pissed and fired up, and Sean's pissed and fired up, and Christian's been threatened, and maybe he's learned a little bit of a lesson this episode, and they had to dispose of a body. Will they have to dispose of a body every episode? Does it get this crazy every episode? Is it just surgery? How wild is this show going to get?
It gets wild. It gets wild. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It gets Ryan Murphy wild.
Yeah, you said there's a killer one season.
Yeah, that definitely... The killer season is definitely like American Horror Story's predecessor in a lot of ways. So that's something to look forward to.
This series overall has 100 episodes. So we have 99 more to go. Not that many. And let me see here real quick. Overall, Nip Tuck on IMDb has a 7.6 out of 10 with 52,000 reviews.
Okay.
So it's pretty well received, I feel like. So
yeah, not bad.
And it went for 6 seasons, 100 episodes, and we got 13 in the first season. So that's kind of the breakdown of where we're going from here.
So do you think this is a peak Ryan Murphy or a valley Ryan Murphy?
I think this is a peak Ryan Murphy. I think it's... I don't think we'll hit many valley Ryan Murphy episodes until we get into a show to figure out what that show is. And then we can decide if it's a bad version of that show or whatever. But I think this is a peak Ryan Murphy. Again, the direction was amazing. I think this was really great. It looked really great. It had some really great scenes and moments. There were some expositional flubs here and there. Some of the characters aren't very likable, but that's something, you have to stick around for it to see if that changes. So yeah, I would say this was peak Ryan Murphy.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is a peak Ryan Murphy. I think the latter part of the episode became more interesting to me. There was a lot of groundwork laid in the first part of it, which was okay. Yeah. But the cliffhanger, the sort of like, oh well, they're gonna deal with that because they buried a body.
Yeah,
is interesting enough to come back.
Yeah. What do you think the most problematic moment of the episode was?
Okay, so I think it all centers around probably the consultations to me. The first probably problematic would just be maybe the whole sort of storyline and consultation moment where we first meet the brothers.
Okay.
Just like as white guys talking to 2 Latino guys. I don't think it could have been worse. I think it was a very weak Ryan Murphy moment. It was just something that was kind of like, okay. Oh, yeah, the problematic moment. And I was just kind of like, oh, okay, could be worse, but it's just still kind of funny. I'm sure he would write it differently right now.
Yeah. I agree. There wasn't a huge problematic moment in this series, right? In this episode.
No, not really. Not that I could really see. Yeah. Just that, in my opinion.
Yeah. What do you think the most Ryan Murphy moment of the episode was? I think these montages, these plastic surgery montages, are going to be the most Ryan Murphy of every episode. His use of music with montages and cut scenes, and even the sex montage scene at the beginning with Christian and Sean felt very Ryan Murphy to me.
Yeah, like the cuts alone of that. I could say that it's either that or maybe even just like the dialogue of the fight between Sean and Julia.
Ryan.
Because he knows how to write like a quick woman's dialogue.
Yeah, a quick fight. Yeah.
And just like, like kind of knocks it out. That could be one. But I'll say because, if I was just kind of watching this for the first time, the surgery scene would probably be something to me too. So I'll probably say that.
Yeah, too. I agree though. The fight scene was very Ryan Murphy and quick and quippy, and the woman came out on top.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what you look for in a Ryan Murphy moment, right? The woman comes out on top. Great. So this was our episode of the Nip Tuck pilot.
Yeah.
2 pilots down, 10 to go.
And then next week is Glee.
Next week is the moment we've all been waiting for. We warmed you up for these first 2 episodes. We got you in the Ryan Murphy headspace. Some say these first 2 shows are very Ryan Murphy. They're very much him and his tone and his style, but there is nothing more Ryan Murphy than Glee.
I agree.
And it's I think our favorite of the Ryan Murphy shows. Maybe American Horror Story. But it's definitely the one that, as we mentioned last week, brought us together. And we bonded over.
Yeah, I can't wait to listen to Journey covers.
I know. So, so this was our episode of the Nip Tuck pilot. Next week is the Glee pilot. That'll be on Sunday. And thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You can follow us on Instagram at the Ryan Murphy Project. You can email us if you have any questions or if we got something wrong. Keep your wrong comments to yourself. But you can email us at the Ryan Murphy Project at gmail.com. And that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I'll see you later, Eric.
Bye.
Bye.